What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC Edmonton. We have Brandon Moreno going against Amir Albazi. We are back in Canada for a very good card, for a fight night card especially, 14 fights on it. And yeah, just looking forward to it, looking forward to breaking it down, some spots sticking out, some plus money spots sticking out. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. Before we get into it and break it all down, if you guys could do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment. All three of those things go a very long way. If you guys want to support me more, or if you do want extra content, be sure to check out dfsbythenumbers.com. I do want to shout out, though, the winner for the Significant Strike contest last week between Max Holloway and Ilia Topuria. They combined for 154 significant strikes, and the closest was somebody who was 7 away. He guessed 161, and that was Choke Hold'em 493. Shout out to Choke Hold'em. He guessed 161. Choke Hold'em, if you could hit me up on Twitter or Instagram with your PayPal or Cash App, I will get you your winnings, sir. So yeah, shout out to Choke Hold'em for that. And yeah, other than that, just be on the lookout for the usual content. A couple live streams later in the week, best bet Saturday, all the good stuff. And yeah, should be a fun card this Saturday for sure. So, all right, guys, with all that out of the way, I say we get into it, and we are going to start with the first fight of the card. We have Youssef Zalal going against Jack Shore. We got Zalal, who is 28 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 15-1-1, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Jack Shore, 29 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach, 17-2, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, and this is a card where probably one of the more closer lined cards in a very long time. I think the biggest favorite on the card right now is like minus 250. Which would be Zalal. I think it's between like Zalal or Mike Malott right now, like minus 250, both of them. But yeah, Zalal's minus 250 right now, and Jack Shore is a plus 210 underdog. So for me, I'm really excited to see what this new version of Youssef Zalal does in his second run in the UFC, because it's always been weird with Zalal. Like outside the UFC, Zalal looks like an absolute killer. Outside the UFC, he has a 100% finish rate. He's knocking guys out. He's submitting guys. He just looks very, very aggressive in these fights outside the UFC. But inside the UFC, in his first stint, he wasn't finishing anybody. All his fights were going to decision. They're exciting fights, but just not being able to go out there and getting some of these guys out of there. So he gets cut. He goes out and finishes like 3 guys, and then they bring him back. And then since then, he's 2-0 with 2 finishes, going out there and finishing and breaking Billy Quarantillo. I thought that was a phenomenal win. And then he went out there and submitted Jarno Aarons as well. So yeah, Youssef Zalal, the new and improved version, just a more aggressive version in there. And I think this guy can definitely do big things. Jack Shore is a guy that had a ton of hype. I think I read he was like 15-0 or even 16-0 at one point in his career. I don't love the move up to featherweight, but the cut to bantamweight must be really tough for the guy. But yeah, bantamweight, he looked really good. At featherweight, not so much, and he is going to be undersized here, which I don't love, but it's one of those spots where I just think Zalal is just going to be the much better striker here, and I think Zalal is going to be able to compete in the grappling. Zalal a black belt as well. I think he should be able to stuff some takedowns here, maybe even get some takedowns of his own, and just do the better work over 15 minutes. I do think this fight could play out a little bit more closer than this line does indicate. Jack Shore is most certainly not Jarno Aarons. He's not even Billy Q. I think Jack Shore is very good. I just think Zalal, being the bigger fighter, the better striker here, should do enough over 15 to get it done. So I'm going Zalal. I'm going Zalal to win this fight by decision. Next, we have Jamey-Lyn Horth going against Ivana Petrovic. I think we have 9 Canadians on the card, and Horth is going to be the first one. We got Horth, who is 34 years old, 5'7", with a 66-inch reach, 6-1 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Ivana Petrovic, 30 years old, 5'8", with a 71-inch reach, 7-1 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Jamey-Lyn Horth opened up as a plus 185 underdog, which is wild. She's now minus 220, making her one of the biggest favorites on the card. Ivana Petrovic opened up minus 225. She's currently plus 185. And although, just like the last fight, I think the line's wide here. I got to go Jamey-Lyn Horth. I think, her size, her physicality especially, like she's very physically strong. I think that physicality is going to come into play here. I think she's going to be able to bully Petrovic against the cage. I feel like she can stuff takedowns here. I even feel like she can get on top in her own right. We saw Luana Carolina even be able to get on top and get some control against Petrovic. I did not like seeing that. And then it's just, in my opinion, just kind of one-way traffic on the feet. I just don't think Petrovic has anything to offer in terms of the striking. I think Horth's the better striker here. So, yeah, I think it's kind of a tough matchup for Petrovic, especially in Canada. If it is a very close fight, probably goes to Horth anyway, but I don't really think it'll be that close. I think, for Petrovic to win the fight, she'll need to be able to go out there and get 2 takedowns and 2 of the rounds and get some control time. I just don't think she's going to be able to do that. So I like Jamey-Lyn Horth here. I'll take her to win this fight by decision. Next, we have Cody Gibson going against Chad Anheliger. We got Cody Gibson, 37 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach, 20-10, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Chad Anheliger, he is 37 years old, 5'6", with a 64-inch reach, 13-7, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Cody Gibson opened up -130. He's now -190. And then Chad Anheliger opened up +110. He is currently a +165 underdog. And yeah, this is a spot where I think, Cody Gibson should go out here and pretty much roll. I think it's stylistically a very good matchup for him. First and foremost, same age there, so I'm not worried about the 37 years old of Gibson. He's going to be much bigger. He's going to have a 4-inch height advantage, and he's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. And yeah, I just think it's kind of going to be better everywhere the fight goes, but especially in the wrestling and the grappling. That's something that Chad Anheliger struggled with throughout his entire career. Anheliger sports a 42% takedown defense. He's been submitted 6 times. He's been submitted 6 times. Cody Gibson, wrestling background, he can get takedowns. He can grapple. We saw that in his last fight. So yeah, I think Cody Gibson, the path to least resistance would be mixing in takedowns here and potentially even getting a sub. I mean, did not like seeing, Jose Johnson go out there and out-grapple Chad Anheliger. I just did not like seeing that. I think Gibson should be able to get takedowns pretty easily here, get on top, and I think he'll eventually work his way to a sub. So I like Gibson here. I'll take him to win this fight by 2nd-round submission. Next fight, we have a very fun fight here. It is Sidey going against Garrett Armfield. We got Sidey, 28 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach. He's 10-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Armfield, he's 28 years old, 5'6", with a 70-inch reach. He's 10-4 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Sidey is the favorite. He opened up -130. He's currently -140. And then Garrett Armfield opened up +110, currently +120. So I picked against the Canadian Anheliger in the last fight, and I think I'm probably going to pick against another Canadian here in Sidey. I just think this is a very close fight, though. I actually like, a lot of Sidey's game. This guy's going to be much bigger in this matchup. He's pretty tall for bantamweight, 5'11", and he does a lot of things well. I like the volume, the pressure, the pace. Can wrestle a little bit, but, Garrett Armfield, his striking's no joke whatsoever. I think these two are going to be very evenly matched in the striking. I think Sidey may be a little bit more volume potentially, but it's going to be just the power of Armfield. I think Armfield has a big power advantage in this matchup. The dude hits like a truck for a bantamweight, and we have seen Sidey cracked. We've seen him dropped. So I just think, this fight probably goes 15 minutes. If it doesn't, it probably means Armfield knocked him out, to be honest. But yeah, I think these guys are going to stand and trade for 15. The only thing I don't like about Armfield is he does slow down as the fight goes on. He's one of those guys that is able to fight through it more often than not. Like in the Katona fight, he was clearly very exhausted, but he was still able to go out there and have some success in the 3rd round. Whereas in the Brady Hiestand fight, he did kind of get broken there and submitted, but I don't think that's, Sidey's going to be able to do that. I think these two are going to strike for 15. And what I will also say is Garrett Armfield does look to be taking his strength and conditioning very seriously. He posted a 1-year transformation between a year ago and now, and just looks like a completely different person. So the strength and conditioning seems to be really good for Armfield at this point, which hopefully that helps out his cardio, because if it does, I do like his chances a little bit more, especially at dog money. So close fight, goes to decision. It's probably going to come down to the corrupt judges. We are in Canada, so that's something to buyer beware, but I got to go Armfield here as a dog. I'll take him to win this fight by a very close decision. Next, we have a very hilarious fight because it's a Alexandr Romanov fight, and his fights are always just end hilariously. We got Rodrigo Nascimento versus Alexandr Romanov. We got Nascimento, 31 years old, 6'2", with an 80-inch reach, 11-2, and 3-1-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Romanov, 33 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach, 17-3, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We have a very closely lined fight on this one here. We have Nascimento opening up +250, and he's currently -110 pick'em. Romanov opened up -300. He's currently a -110 pick'em. So I do not trust Alexandr Romanov at all. I just don't think he's taken his career seriously, like whatsoever. Like, what's been going on with this guy? I mean, I'll never forget the Alexander Volkov fight where it was probably my worst bet of all time. I bet on Romanov like a week prior to the fight. Got a lot of CLV, and then he shows up at weigh-in day, and it's like, did this guy even train at all? Like, he looked awful, the worst shape I've ever seen him in, and then it like translated to the performance. I kid you not. Remember watching that fight, Romanov gets a takedown stuffed, and then I'm looking at him, and I'm looking up at the clock, and it's like he's exhausted. His mouth is wide open. He has nothing left. He's death gassed and the clock says 4 minutes left in the first round. It was the worst display of cardio I think I've ever seen in my entire life. It was just terrible. And then he goes out there and proceeds to show the worst submission defense I've ever seen in my entire life against Jailton Almeida. Like, this guy Romanov's a black belt, and his submission defense was basically just giving Almeida the choke, not fighting the hands. He went on all fours, lifted up his neck, and said, "Choke me out, Almeida." I don't know if it's some type of sick fetish or what, but that was the worst display of submission defense I've ever seen in my entire life for Romanov. So it's like, how does he win this fight? He probably has to take down Nascimento and pound him out in the first couple minutes, but if he's not able to do that, does this guy have 5 minutes in him at this point? Does he have 7.5 minutes in him at this point? This is a fight where I want to see the weigh-ins. I want to see if Alexandr Romanov has trained for this fight, quite frankly, because the last couple times, it's like, I don't know if he even wants to be here at this point. So if he shows up and looks terrible, I'm probably going to be betting on Nascimento. If he shows up and looks in incredible shape, he's taken it seriously, I will be fine with it just passing. But I got to go Nascimento here, just based on the fact that he is a BJJ black belt, a legit BJJ black belt. He can go 15 minutes. He can grapple. If he does get taken down, he should be able to stay safe on top for the most part. So at a pick'em, give me Nascimento. But geez, this fight is so sketchy. I'll take Nascimento, second round submission, choking out a death-gassed Alexandr Romanov. Should be hilarious one way or another, I think. All right, moving on. We got Charles Jourdain going against Victor Henry. We got Jourdain, 28 years old, 5'9", with a 69-inch reach, 15-8-1, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Victor Henry, 37 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach, 24-6, and 3-1, and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. So we have Jourdain opening at -105. Some money has came in on him the last several days. He's currently -140. And as far as Victor Henry, opened at -125. He's down +120. Charles Jourdain is coming down to bantamweight for the first time in his entire career. Charles Jourdain actually does have a couple catchweight fights at 150. He does even have a lightweight fight. So I'm interested to see how Charles Jourdain does look at bantamweight. But that is absolutely something to mention. And I think waiting for the weigh-ins might be kind of wise here to see how he looks. But yeah, another very close fight on a card full of close fights. I think this is another one of them. I'm a big fan of the style of Victor Henry. This guy is just nonstop, a ton of volume. Doesn't have the most power in the world, but he's just so active. He's landing 8.5 significant strikes per minute, just about. And Charles Jourdain is a guy that he's fallen on tough times a little bit. He did not look great in the Gene Silva fight, which we can forgive him for that a little bit. He did not look great at all in the Woodson fight, which I don't love that, but Woodson's a big dude for the division. And yeah, he's looking to get his first win in a while, it seems like. He's on a 2-fight skid, but I kind of like Henry here. I think Jourdain is a super slow starter, so he probably loses the first round, and Henry's not a guy you really want to get behind against. I mean, Victor Henry's not going to slow down. Victor Henry also seems to get better and better as the fight goes on. So yeah, maybe it's Jourdain just having the bigger moments, landing some bigger shots, but I think the volume is going to heavily be in favor of Henry, and we've also been seeing Jourdain kind of resort to wrestling a lot more in a lot of his fights recently, and that's not going to be on the table here, I don't think. He wasn't able to have success taking down Woodson, wasn't able to have success taking down Silva, and I don't think he's going to be able to have success taking down Henry either. So I think it's another fight, goes 15, and it is going to go into the hands of the crooked, blind, corrupt judges. We are in Canada, so I'm picking against another Canadian here, so we'll see how that works out. But I'm going Henry to win this fight just based off of just doing a lot more over 15. So Henry by decision for me. Moving on, we have Jasmine Jasudavicius going against Ariane Lipski. We got Jasudavicius, 35 years old, 5'7", with a 68-inch reach, 11-3 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Lipski, or also known as De Silva, but we'll go for Lipski for now. She's 5'6" with a 67-inch reach, 17-9 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. So we have Jasudavicius opened up as a minus 300 favorite, and she is currently minus 225. Lipski opened up as a plus 250 underdog, and she's currently plus 190. So, yeah, I mean, one thing I'll say about De Silva or Lipski is she's made a ton of improvements. She's improved leaps and bounds in terms of the ground game. Like, that's kind of the one thing that just really sucked earlier in her career. I mean, getting TKO'd by Montana De La Rosa is inexcusable. That's Montana De La Rosa's only knockout ever. Getting TKO'd by Antonina Shevchenko is just, it's inexcusable. I mean, it just shouldn't be happening. But yeah, that was back in 2020 against Antonina. That was back in 2021 against Montana. And since then, yeah, she's looked a lot better. She did get knocked out by Priscilla Cachoeira. You don't like to see that. But in terms of the ground game, it's like against JJ Aldrich, she stuffed every single takedown. All 12 takedowns against Aldrich. Against Gatto, she stuffed all 7 takedowns against Melissa Gatto. Against Casey O'Neill, she stuffed all 2 takedowns against Casey O'Neill. Like, her takedown defense is looking a lot better. Karina Silva did go 5 for 6, but to Lipski's credit, she was able to survive 15 minutes, and I think she gave Karina Silva her only decision win. So it's like, that's kind of what scares me, because looking back, the Antonina fight was an awful look. The De La Rosa fight was an awful look, but does that Lipski exist anymore? And I'm not so sure. Like, if she's able to stuff takedowns here, Lipski is so live. Like, the striking's not even close. Jasmine blocks punches with her face. It's a really bad look. But one thing I'll say is, Jasmine's a much better wrestler than Melissa Gatto. Jasmine's a much better wrestler than JJ Aldrich, and Jasmine's a much better wrestler than Casey O'Neill. And I even think Jasmine's a much better wrestler than Karina Silva, who did take down Lipski 5 times. So it's like, I think Jasmine's going to get the takedowns here. Her control's good. She's very physically strong. She's big for the division. But yeah, if she can't get the takedown, she's in serious trouble here. But I'll lean towards she does. I'll take Jasmine here to win this fight by decision. Could get sketchy. She's probably going to eat some big shots, but I'll take Jasudavicius to win this fight by decision here. Moving on, we have Pedro Munhoz going against Aiemann Zahabi. We have Munhoz, 38 years old, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach, 20-9 and 1-3 in his last 1-3 and 1 no contest in his last 5 fights. The no contest coming against Sean O'Malley. Zahabi, 36 years old, 5'8", with a 68.5-inch reach. He's 11-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Yeah, we got a line flip here. So Munhoz, Munhoz actually opened up plus 135. He's currently plus 105. Zahabi opened up minus 155. He's currently minus 125, but Munhoz was like minus 120 at one point. So, yeah, Munhoz, 38 years old. He is getting up there in age. For me, I don't know what it is with Zahabi, but I can just never, ever pick this guy to win a fight, ever. I think I've picked against him in like pretty much all of his fights for the most part, and yeah, I've been wrong a lot. I mean, he's won his last 4, but it's like this guy does nothing in there. Zahabi does absolutely nothing in there. He's one of those. He's like a hypnotist. It's like he literally does nothing, but he makes his opponents do more of nothing. It's like, it's hard to watch. Like, all of his fights are just very boring. Like, I'll never forget that the Vince Morales fight, just an awful fight where he went out there and just did nothing. Landed only 28 strikes across 15 minutes. The Ricky Turcios fight, which is awful. He landed 54 strikes to Turcios' 27. Like, his fights can be boring at times. He does have some power, but I don't think that's going to come into play here. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's not going to take down Munhoz. He's not going to knock out Munhoz. I think we're going 15. I got to go with the more active striker in Munhoz. Munhoz is landing 5.32 significant strikes per minute, whereas Zahabi is landing 3.43 significant strikes per minute. Like, he just doesn't do much. So, yeah, Munhoz is getting old, but I like the leg kick still. I like the durability still. I like the takedown defense still. I like the level of competition. He's won 1 fight in the last couple years. Well, 2 fights in the last since 2020, but he's losing to Jose Aldo, Dominic Cruz, Marlon Vera, Kyler Phillips, Frankie Edgar in a fight I thought he won. So, Yeah, this is just a big step down in competition for Munhoz. So I'll pick him to win here. I'll pick him to win by decision. Picking against another Canadian. So we'll see how it works out. Last time the male Canadians did not do well. I think they went like 0-6 and 0-7, and I seem to be picking against quite a few of them. But I just don't. I can't pick Zahabi to win any fight. He just does nothing. It's hard to pick a guy that does literally nothing, and that's what he does. But he's winning, so we'll see. Pedro Munhoz by decision. Moving on to Mike Malott going against Officer Trevin Giles. We got Malott, 32 years old, 6'1" with a 73-inch reach, 10-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Officer Trevin Giles, he's 32 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach, 16-6 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Mike Malott is the biggest favorite on the card, minus 255 here. Opened up minus 350. And then Trevin Giles opened up plus 285. He's currently plus 215. And here is where I will pick my first male Canadian in Mike Malott. But I don't feel great about it. Like, Mike Malott being the biggest favorite on the card is terrifying because on the feet, he's very hittable. I've always questioned the chin a little bit. The cardio is very suspect, and we saw that in his last fight against Neil Magny where he death-gassed and got finished in the last 30 seconds. But, man, Officer Trevin Giles, this is a guy that just finds a way to lose. I think he's probably the best fighter in UFC history in terms of finding ways just to lose the fight. Like, I'm talking fights he's winning. He's winning some of these fights, and then he's just going out there and getting finished. He's been finishing all 6 of his losses. The Gerald Meerschaert fight was on his way to winning that fight, looking good, and then he makes a couple mistakes, goes to the mat with Meerschaert, gets submitted in the 3rd round against Zach Cummings. Close fight, but I thought he was on his way to potentially winning that fight. Gets dropped in the 3rd round and submitted. Even against, like, Prochas, his last fight, he was outlanding Prochas 2-1. The striking looked great. Officer Giles looked amazing. And then, boom, gets knocked out with, like, a minute left in the 2nd round. It's like this guy just finds a way to lose, not only lose, but lose in spectacular fashion and lose and get finished. Knockout loss to Prochas, submission loss to Bonfim, knockout loss to Michael Morales, knockout loss to Dricus, submission losses to Cummings and Meerschaert. So Mike Malott, he can knock you out. Mike Malott, he can submit you. But, man, I don't know. If this fight gets extended, like, this could get interesting. What I will say about Malott, though, is I went back and watched that Magny fight. He did still look fine, even, like, pretty much the entire fight up until, like, the last minute. Like, he was able to win the 2nd round, get some takedowns. He was able to do well early in the 3rd round. So I don't think his cardio is, like, that bad, but just it wasn't the best look. So I'll go Malott here. I think he probably submits Trevin Giles. I think Officer Trevin Giles probably gets his 7th finish loss. I think he's going to need some backup come Saturday, and there might be an officer down. I mean, I'm sick. I'm kind of sick of seeing it. It's kind of sad to watch, but yeah, give me Mike Malott. I'll say submit Trevin Giles in the 2nd round, maybe even a club and sub. So yeah, Mike Malott 2nd round submission. Moving on to Marc-Andre Barrio going against Dustin Stoltzfus. We got Barrio, 34 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach, 16-8 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Dustin Stoltzfus, he's 32 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach, 15-6 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Marc-Andre Barrio opened up minus 245, currently minus 205. Dustin Stoltzfus opened up plus 210. He's currently plus 175. I'll be picking another Canadian here in Marc-Andre Barrio. I've always been a big fan of Barrio. I mean, this is a guy that just brings a fun style. Good cardio, good volume, good takedown defense, very tough, very durable for the most part. Has been knocked out here and there, but yet typically very durable dude. And I kind of think it's just a tough matchup for Stoltzfus because it's like Stoltzfus, this guy can grapple a little bit. His striking's not the best. I think Barrio should be able to stuff takedowns here. I think he has the better cardio, the much better striking, much more volume, and I think he kind of just pieces up Dustin Stoltzfus across 15 minutes, just does the better work in the striking. Yeah, as long as he can stuff takedowns here, I think should be a pretty easy fight here for Marc-Andre Barrio. He doesn't have to worry about much power coming his way, and just outside of the grappling, that's about all he should be worried about. Yeah, as long as he can stuff the takedowns, I think he should make this look pretty easy. So give me Barrio to win this fight by decision. Next we have Caio Machado going against Brenson Ribeiro. We got Machado, 30 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach, 8-3 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Brenson Ribeiro, 28 years old, 6'3" with an 81-inch reach, 15-7 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Machado opened up -110. He's currently -155. Brenson Ribeiro opened up -110. He's currently +135. Weird fight. Kind of a terrible fight. I mean, and putting it on the main card, though, Machado is coming down to light heavyweight. Fought previously at heavyweight, and I went and looked at his Instagram. He does look to be in very good shape. He kind of looks like a completely different person, so that's good for him. But I don't know. I gotta go Machado here just because Ribeiro, he has about 7.5 minutes of gas. I think he's dangerous. He has power. He's a black belt in BJJ. May be able to have some success early on, but Machado, like even for like a heavyweight, he had great cardio, he had great volume, he had great durability, and I think all those things should just translate down to light heavyweight. If not, maybe his cardio is even better down here. Maybe his volume's even better. So yeah, I'm going Machado here. Could get sketchy early, but I think he kind of takes over more and more as the fight goes on. Ribeiro's takedown defense looked awful in his last fight. Machado might even be able to get takedowns here, but if not, should be able to just do the better work across 15 on the feet. So yeah, I'm going Machado here. I'm going Machado to win this fight by decision. Next fight, we have Jonathan Deniz going against Derek Lewis. We got Deniz, 33 years old, 6'4", with a 79.5-inch reach, 8-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Derek Lewis, 39 years old, 6'3", with a 79-inch reach, 28-12 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Deniz opened up +150. He's now -170, the favorite. Derek Lewis opened at -175. He's now +145, the underdog. And yeah, Derek Lewis fights are always very tough to predict because it's like he's at a skill disadvantage in pretty much every single fight he's in, but he has that one equalizer, and that equalizer is just some of the best power in the heavyweight division. So skill for skill, I mean, Deniz is the much more skilled striker. Derek Lewis literally throws no volume. He's landing 2.48 significant strikes per minute. He doesn't throw much, but when he does throw and when he does land, he lands with a ton of power. So Lewis, in pretty much every single fight, is knockout or bust. Deniz is going to easily be the minute winner here. I think is the much better striker, much more volume, much more tools on the feet. Maybe Lewis tries to get some takedowns here, but it's not really something you can count on for Derek Lewis. I think these two are primarily going to stand and strike. And I gotta go Deniz, but I mean, nobody should be shocked if Derek Lewis goes out there and knocks this guy out. Like, Derek Lewis has knocked many guys out. But yeah, I'll go Deniz here. Deniz was going to he went to decision in his last fight against Carl Williams, but he did hurt Carl Williams in every single round 1, 2, and 3. If he hurts Derek Lewis, like once Derek Lewis gets hurt, he's one of those guys that kind of looks for the door, looks for the way out, and I kind of think that's what's going to happen. I think Deniz is going to hurt him, and I think he's going to probably finish him and swarm and finish him shortly after. Lewis has been finished 9 times, 7 by knockout. I think he probably gets finished here again. I'll go first round knockout win for Jonathan Deniz, but picking and betting against Derek Lewis is always terrifying. But yeah, Deniz KO1 for me. All right, we'll move on now to the co-main event, 5-round fight, non-title fight. Erin Blanchfield, Rose Namajunas. We got Blanchfield, 25 years old, 5'4", with a 68-inch reach. 12-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Rose Namajunas, 32 years old, 5'5", with a 65-inch reach, 13-6 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. We have Blanchfield open up -200. She's currently -130. Rose opened up +170. She's currently +110. So yeah, interesting fight. I think the 5-round aspect of things makes it interesting as well. But the more I looked into this fight, the more I just kind of like Rose here. I know she's undersized, I suppose, even though she's going to have a height advantage here. She's typically a strawweight. She came up to flyweight, and since coming up to flyweight, she's looked fine. I mean, she did good against Hebos, did good against Fiora. Like, the Fiora fight was very close. She looked really good against Cortez, so maybe the size isn't going to matter as much for Rose here up at flyweight. Maybe this is a good division for her. And like I said, she's going to even be the taller fighter in this matchup. But I'm thinking about this fight, and it's like, for Blanchfield to win this fight, she's going to need to get takedowns, and that's a problem with Erin Blanchfield. Her grappling is incredible. The pace she sets, incredible. The cardio, it's all great. It's just the wrestling is not there. 33% takedown accuracy. She was 0 for 3 on takedowns against Fiora, which is kind of disappointing. Like, I know she struggled to, close the distance and take her down, but only 3 takedown attempts in 25 minutes against Fiora. I did not like that. Against Taila Santos, she was 0 for 14 in takedown attempts. And even against JJ Aldridge, she was like 0 for 4 in takedown attempts. So it's like the wrestling's not there whatsoever. And for her to win this fight, you got to think she's going to need a takedown in at least 3 out of the 5 rounds. And I'm not sure that it happens, because on the feet, it's one-way traffic. On the feet, it's not even close. Erin Blanchfield's striking is still very much a work in progress here. So, and even if she does take down Rose, that's not to say she's going to even hold her down. Like, Rose's scrambling ability, her grappling is very good in her own right. We saw her reverse Hebos multiple times. So, yeah, at plus money, I'm gonna take the dog here and Rose Namajunas. I think it's gonna be a very close fight. I think Blanchfield can make this competitive just with her, her grittiness, her aggressiveness, her willingness to go out there and do stuff. But yeah, I think Rose is the better striker. I don't think Blanchfield's wrestling's where it needs to be. And I'm going to take Rose to win the fight. So yeah, give me Rose Namajunas. I think the big cage favors her as well. I'll take her to win this fight by decision. And then we have the main event here. It is Brandon Moreno going against Amir Albazi. We got Moreno, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 21-8-2, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Amir Albazi, 31 years old, 5'5", with a 68-inch reach, 17-1, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Moreno opening up -150. He's currently -175. Albazi opened up +130. He's currently +150. Albazi has been out for a little while. His last fight was last year against Kai Kara-France. That was last June. So he's been out for about a year and a couple months. So he's coming off of a pretty gruesome injury. I think like a neck injury, which I don't, you don't like to see that. I mean, neck injuries are no joke. So I don't like that. And I'm kind of looking through Albazi's career, and it's like, who's his best win? So he beats Malcolm Gordon, who's now cut. He beats Zhalgas Zhumagulov, who's now cut. He beats Francisco Figueiredo, who's now cut. He beat Alessandro Costa, but Costa did come in there on really short notice, but decent win. And then he beats Kai Kara-France, but not really. He clearly lost that fight. I mean, that was probably one of the worst decisions of the year last year. I mean, Kai Kara-France outlands him 99 to 43. Albazi does win. I think it was the 3rd round with the grappling, but outside of that, had no success taking down Kai Kara. So that decision was kind of trash. So I'm looking through his resume, and it's like, I don't know. I'm not really impressed with any of these wins. I don't think he beat Kai Kara. So this is going to probably be his toughest matchup to date against Brandon Moreno, who's fought in a 5-round title fight, a million times it seems like. So yeah, I think Moreno, his takedown defense isn't the best, but his scrambling ability is very good. He's hard to hold down. I think Albazi's going to really struggle to hold him down across 15 minutes. And then on the feet, you got to favor Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno, at the latter half of his career, his striking's looking better than ever. The volume's there, very tough. The cardio shouldn't be a problem. This fight could play out, a little bit competitively, just with, due to the fact that Albazi probably does get some takedowns here or there. His control's decent, but I kind of like Moreno here just to do more damage. Land bigger shots across 25. Land more just in general across 25. So I like Moreno here. I also like the fact that he's been more active. This guy fought, I feel like, so much in the span of like the last couple of years, whereas Albazi, not much activity. Of course, that injury had a lot to do with it, but yeah, we'll see how he bounces back from that. But I'm going to take Moreno here. I'm going to take Moreno to win this fight by decision. There you go. That is UFC Edmonton. Should be a fun card. Fight night card, I think, is really solid. 14 fights to work with. If you guys could do me a favor on your way out, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, let me know what you guys are liking for this week. A couple plus money spots sticking out myself. Should have a decent amount of action for Edmonton. Do want to also shout out the sponsor on the way out. Forgot to at the beginning of the video. That is Prize Picks. Right now, if you guys use code DFSBTN, you'll get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Free $50 into your Prize Picks account, whether you win or lose the $5 lineup. Check it out, Prize Picks. Use that code DFSBTN. And with all that out of the way, best of luck, guys. UFC Edmonton, enjoy the card, and we will talk to you guys soon. See you later.